we're back. Awesome. Oh, boy. I'm getting fired up. I don't know about you, but I'm
No,
getting.
no. Over the last like 2 minutes, I've been like,
Uh-huh.
North Carolina flipped. Texas looks
Yep.
like it's good. I mean, they still haven't called any of these, but
Yep.
Wisconsin is good. Pennsylvania is red now. Ohio's finally red now.
You were
Um,
talking about Kansas. Kansas seems like
Kansas is done,
firmly.
according to my book. Is
Yeah.
done.
So,
Um, Utah, okay, they haven't called you. This is the point I was trying to make. They like,
yeah.
why can't they call the automatic um, automatic states for the Republicans?
So I just saw North Carolina is 49.7 Trump, 49.1 Biden. So before when I looked at it, it was literally a tie, and I'm like, oh, this is moving in the right direction. So,
Yes, yes.
uh,
Unfortunately, I just looked at Cooper's numbers. They already called it for Cooper.
uh,
It's just frustrating. Like I don't. Again, we could talk about this till kingdom come. Like
yeah, I don't, I
I'm
don't,
out
I
of
don't.
I'm out of words when it comes to Cooper. The governor. I don't know idea.
Yeah, he sucks. That's a good word. I don't, I don't understand the mindset. I don't understand the. Mm, I do kind of understand the mentality of why would I vote for a liberal governor if you are, if you live in a state where you have a huge welfare state and where the governor controls that and pushes that, but North Carolina doesn't really fit that bill.
No,
Honest.
and it's the same. It's the opposite of Vermont and New Hampshire. I mean, New Hampshire's Governor Sununu is going to win by 20.
Hmm.
Vermont's Republican governor is going to win. I think already won.
Yeah, I'm
Vermont.
sure. It's
So I'm trying to just picture somebody walking to the poll, getting their thing, and say, "Yeah, I like Trump. I'm going to vote for Trump." And then you go to the governor. Oh, Cooper, of course, Cooper. I don't know if that's just lack of. It's same thing in Vermont. Oh, of course. There's like, of course, I'm voting for Biden. Republican governor. Okay, why not? Like,
sure. So, my buddy Carmine, uh, if you guys aren't following Carmine Sabia either on Facebook or on Twitter, he is one of the better political pundits out there without being a dish rag. Essentially, he's a real
dish.
guy. He's very to the point, very pull no punches. Um, and he posted something a little bit ago. I just thought it was hilarious. It's like, Bloomberg spent $100 million in Florida, paying because in Florida, if you're a felon and you owe a fine, you can pay your fine off and you can vote again. You get your voting rights back, which I don't really have a problem with felons voting. I think that's
It
a
depends on the felony,
right,
obviously.
exactly. But he spent $100 million paying off felons fines for them and doing advertising specifically with defeat Trump in mind. He's one of the worst human beings out there, period, in my opinion. And you spend $100 million in the state, and you're not running, and your guy loses. I mean, that's just I
Well, I
I
mean,
couldn't.
this is the same guy who spent way more than that and didn't win any of the primaries for president. I mean, if you remember at the beginning of everything, Bloomberg was like, "Well, he could possibly win." He
Yeah.
won he won Guam or something like that. He won the lost city of Atlantis. Woo!
So, but see, here's the thing: it's Kamala Harris was the same way, and I've been saying this ever since she was picked as Biden's running mate. She couldn't even get more than 3% of the Democrats' vote. How is she supposed to be a plus running with somebody who she has called a racist? Who she obviously had issues with. But how is that supposed to add to your party? Your running mate is supposed to be somebody who enhances your probability of being elected to whatever position you're running for. And she just wasn't, which, I mean, seems like I'm not yet comfortable enough to call it, but it seems like it was the wrong strategy and was good news for us that Biden chose her. But
Oh
she
yeah.
was
I mean,
she was literally like the worst choice. he could have chosen Bernie Sanders. He could have chosen Elizabeth Warren. He could have chosen Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard would have probably almost ensured him the election.
Man,
Honestly.
I wouldn't go that far. It'd have been a lot better.
Mhm.
I think after it's all said and done, it's not good. Tulsi Gabbard's the better pick, but even Elizabeth Warren might be the better pick. I, I,
Yeah.
I don't
And,
know, but
and
why
like
not get us? Go ahead.
I said, I don't like Warren, but I would have if I was Biden and I had to choose between Harris and Warren, I would have chosen Warren 100 times out of 100. You know.
Right. Well, but they're still going for the diversity pick. They think, we don't need the best person for the job. We need the best person for the job who is, someone of different color and is that a female. Something that the person has no, it's not a trait they can help. They were born with it. It's
Right.
so.
Hey, could you imagine if you are on the board of directors at a company and you're going to elect you're going to hire somebody not to be the CEO but to be the person right below the CEO and the COO and you say, well, we're going to eliminate off the bat before we even look at anybody, we're going to eliminate half the population out there. We're not going to look at any guys. Could you imagine any company operating like that with any common sense at all?
But they do. That's the thing. The companies do operate like that, and that's why they go bankrupt.
Yeah, I can't wrap my head around that. But yeah, numbers are looking really really good. Georgia seems to be firmly in Trump's grasp now. Uh, there's a lot of states, as you said, and you've been saying this all night, that it's obvious that one person or another is firmly in control, but they just won't call it. You
Right.
know, and I don't understand. I can understand not calling North Carolina. You're less than a 1 percentage point difference there. I can
Absolutely.
understand even Ohio, as much as Trump is surging right now. I can understand not calling it, or even Texas, where it's Biden 48% and Trump 51%. Yeah, I could see not calling that. But if you've got a 20-point swing, a 20-point gap in a state that you've got more than half the votes in, you're not going to change that around. You're just
No, you're
not.
not. You're not going to change it around, and um, yeah, you can see that for North Carolina, but like Utah,
Hmm.
um, I mean, you don't have. I mean, your random Mormon third party guys not running, so
No.
you should be able to pick that one up. And the fact they didn't call it right away, it's so weird. They haven't called any swing state, and
Hmm.
they barely called any automatic Republican. They've called Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas. The normals like the Dakotas, something that's obvious, but um, there's no
Trump is
swing.
now leading.
All the swing states are still there. It's still
Mhm.
there.
Trump is now leading in Pennsylvania,
Yep.
52% to 47%. So
Yeah.
that's pretty
From
strong.
the map I see, all the Rust Belt states are now red. Texas is
Hmm.
red. Missouri, they still haven't called yet, which they should.
Right.
North
Yeah.
Carolina's red. Georgia's red. Florida's red. Iowa's blue, but I think they just opened their polls. And Minnesota right now is leading blue as well. And it looks like Minnesota is at, yeah, 61-37.
Yeah.
Who knows? That might be all Minneapolis.
They've only got
Iowa is
they've only got 38% of
62-36.
their they've
Yeah,
only got 38% of their vote in too in Minnesota. So
right.
no telling. But see, again, I honestly, even as early as it is, I would feel comfortable if I was calling a state to call Minnesota for Biden with that kind of a gap. But then, we don't necessarily know how they've been counting the votes because if you've got a state where, let's say Minnesota, where you've got a lot of early voting, but you had a huge surge on election day, maybe you are reluctant to call it, even though the early voting had you such a prohibitive favorite.
Right.
So I can kind of see that in some cases, but I think that so many places got burned in 2016 by calling states early that they're like, nope, we're not going to make that mistake again.
Well, still think about it. Like, still, Trump is still up in Virginia, 53-45. Yeah, the gap's closing, and yeah, they probably still have to count votes in the D.C. area, but it's still 8 points in Virginia, and they still called it. So is that going to come back and burn them? That should still be a toss up right now. To
Well,
be honest with you.
so in Virginia, in Alexandria, which is the uh, Demo- Democrat stronghold in Virginia, is the Alexandria
Yeah.
area. Trump only lost that district by 5,000 votes, which
Okay.
is huge. So he gained, and that's what we're seeing tonight. Is it seems like pretty much every place that Trump won in 2016, he's winning again, but by greater numbers, and he's picking up some places that he didn't win.
Right.
So
Right.
which is kind of what we've been talking about for the last few weeks. That's what we've been talking about seeing. Yeah, Pennsylvania, Trump's up by 7, and I feel comfortable saying he's going to win Pennsylvania, but you never know.
You never know, but like I said, I've been up there a couple times. It seems more conservative, more leaning Trump than even North Carolina does. I heard on today on the radio, there's pollsters on the ground in Philadelphia, and they were like, "Hey, I was here 4 years ago. This place was packed. Nobody's here now." And this is in
Yeah.
a Democrat stronghold of Philadelphia. The rural areas in Pennsylvania are the most conservative you'll find anywhere in the country. I can
Oh
tell
yeah.
you that
No,
right now. It's just
yeah.
it's Trump flying flags everywhere. So what you have is Pennsylvania, Philadelphia area, which is basically New Jersey, and you
Hmm.
have Pittsburgh. Now, for the first time ever, I don't know if you heard this. For the first time ever, the Pittsburgh not ever, but the first time since 1972, the Pittsburgh Post Gazette
Yeah.
uh, recommended or endorsed a Republican governor. Like
Yep.
this is Pittsburgh, and they
Yeah.
and they endorsed Trump. That's insane.
We Well, a lot of that has to do with the fact that the unions don't have the stranglehold politically anymore that they
Right.
used to have. The
And that's
union
all
member,
Western Pennsylvania is
right?
unions.
The union membership is more educated politically than they were 20, 30, 40 years ago, and they know that the heads of their union are liberals, and they've got the guts to throw these people out if they start spending their dues on political campaigns they don't agree with. And
Right.
so, because if you meet a union plumber in Pittsburgh, I guarantee you that guy's voting for Trump.
Right.
Now his union representative might not be voting for Trump, but that guy's voting for Trump, and he's upset
And
to
he's
see
not
his
telling anybody about it either.
no, because he can't get in bad with the union. He can't get in
Right.
bad with his buddies, and he doesn't know what his buddies are necessarily thinking. But if you sit at the dinner table with that guy, that's going to be one of the most conservative guys you've ever met in your life.
Well,
He might
yeah,
he might not be savvy, he might not be slick politically, but he lives his life conservatively, and now he votes conservatively because he sees they match up.
right. Well, yeah. So you've lived in Ohio for a while now, a couple 10 years.
Yeah,
So Ohio was always, before 2016. Well, even 2016, it was a anybody can win type state,
hmm
but seems like it's going more right, more
hmm
red. Not even the Democrats are like, yeah, you will get Ohio. It was pretty much in Trump's column the whole time. So what do you see in Ohio? They have three major cities. They have the
yeah,
three C's: Columbus, Cincinnati, and Cleveland. That's a lot of population that most likely goes left. And you have Dayton, and you have the Toledo, all this stuff. You would think it would be very blue. Why is Ohio becoming a almost automatic red now?
I think that a lot of it has to do with the same thing you have in North Carolina, but it stops it. You have people who grew up in Ohio who moved to other states, and then they moved back to Ohio, and they transferred those. more conservative viewpoints that they saw in other states back into Ohio. They see, once they leave the state, they see the problems that the Democrats being in charge for decade after decade after decade have caused. They see a governor like DeWine, who's he's not a conservative. He's basically a rhino,
He's
but
Kasich.
right, exactly. But
Maybe a little better than Kasich. Kasich's probably the
yeah,
worst
oh
Republican ever.
yeah, but they see somebody like that, and they see the fact that the state is thriving economically, just like North Carolina did under Jim Martin. They see the fact that businesses are coming back into the state, and it's not because of Democrat policies. And these are folks that are, before the newspapers, the Plain Dealer, and places like that had a stranglehold on the information, and so now you have the internet, and these are folks that they're not just getting their information from the local news and from the newspaper. They're actually online. They're on Facebook. They've got friends all over the country that are justifiably pointing out, hey, this is what's wrong in Detroit and in Chicago and in all these Democrat strongholds where it's a third world country. They don't want to see the state go that direction. And Cleveland especially is got very close to that edge where just one little
Yes.
nudge and
Yep.
it would be Detroit
Yep.
right now. And yeah, it's got problems. The police force in Cleveland is one of the more problematic areas where you have places where they try to maintain law and order, but they do it in a way that is not necessarily camera friendly, to put it lightly.
Right.
So there's some pushback there, but the difference is now the pushback isn't, oh, we need to get Democrats in because the Democrats are the ones that put the police in that place. Now it's more of a libertarian pushback, and so the Democrats are losing votes. Republicans aren't necessarily gaining. The Libertarian Party and outside candidates are gaining, but it's resulting in more Republicans being elected. So I think that's just my analysis of it, just based on being here for several years.
Yeah. I always wondered that because you got it's I mean Michigan's looks like it's going the same way too. Like in Wisconsin is a little different than Michigan. Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania are about the same. I mean they're blue collar, Rust Belt, automobile industry, steel industry, unions, all this stuff, and maybe they're just since the unions don't have the stronghold they used to back in the day, they want their jobs, they want their and Trump is he's not blue collar, but he portrays himself as a blue collar guy.
Yeah,
He's not an elite guy. He doesn't portray himself as an elite guy. Um, they're starting to see that okay, their policies, the Republican conservative policies, are the ones that get us jobs. And in grand scheme of things, that's all really anybody cares about is, hey,
yeah,
am I going to work? Am I going to pay my bills? Am I going to feed my kids?
right.
I try to tell someone this the other day. It's like, I want to be left alone. I want my own money, and I want the military to be strong. Anything else outside of that in reality is just pandering to weak-minded people,
Yeah,
all this other
yeah.
stuff. I mean, yeah, there's a little things here and there that matter, but in the grand scheme of things, most people want to eat, they
hmm
want to provide, they want to have a job, they just want to be left alone.
And they want to know that they're safe. They want it
Yes,
from a
and the
military
military, yes,
standpoint.
and the
Yeah,
military, yes, because without the military, none of that matters anyway. So,
no,
um, you know, because don't make no mistake about it. There's every country in the world, not every country, but most of the evil countries in the world would love to come take us over. But the fact that they
well,
don't
and
is because we're strong. And if we
well,
become weak, they will come get us.
that's the thing with Trump is he's the first president in my lifetime to not have a war go on when he's to not essentially start a war when or a skirmish or however you want to put it when he's in office.
Right.
He's also working on securing peace in the Middle East, which is the area that between them and North Korea, which he's also essentially secured peace with, that were the two problem areas when he took office, where people were literally terrified. When he went over to North Korea, people were terrified that he was going to start World War III.
Yeah.
Ended up ended up now, he calmed them guys down. That doesn't mean it's going to last forever, but for right now, we feel safe with that. Nobody talks about North Korea being a threat right now.
Right. Nobody talks about being in a war right now.
Right.
And I don't know. That's sometimes it's a bad thing because now what we're doing is fighting with each other
Yeah.
instead of having a common goal.
Yeah. So, but there's a reason he's been nominated 3 times for a Nobel Peace Prize.
I think
It's
four
not
now. I think four. But
actually. I think it's 5. I heard the other day 5, but I
right.
haven't confirmed the 5th one. I think you're right about at least 4,
Right.
but I was speaking to 3 because that's the hard number that I know for a fact. He was nominated 3 times at least. So, but
Yeah.
here's the if it was any other president other than Trump, he would be Time Magazine's Man of the Year, year after year after year.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I think it's if it's anybody that doesn't have an R next to his name. Like it,
Oh, true. Yeah.
I try to tell people this is like, yeah, Trump's different. What Trump is hated by both parties, but by the establishment.
Hmm.
People like Bush or Romney is hated by the Democrats. They
Yeah.
are still are the establishment though.
Hmm.
Okay, but if you have an R next to your name, you're going to have some disadvantage. There is nobody more squeaky clean than ran for president than Mitt Romney, and they still
Yeah.
found things to make fun of him of and put him down. And you can't find a more middle of the road person to ever run for office. Well, you probably could than Bob Dole and John McCain. They
Yeah.
still found a way to call him a warmonger, which he kind of was, but um, if you have an R next to their name, you're going to be criticized, and no
Mhm.
peace prize is going to, and once while they're alive, is not going to matter too much in the public eye as far as the media is concerned. Now, if it was Obama, holy smokes, we'd be having national holidays, we'd be having
Yeah.
parades, fireworks, um, all that type of stuff. So no matter who runs in 2024, they're going to get the same damn treatment as Trump
Yeah.
did. And whether
Yeah.
it's Candace Owens or I actually think Tom Cotton's going to run, to be honest with you. I really like that dude. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I
um,
like Cotton.
yeah,
I
Cotton
like
or
what's her head out of North Dakota.
Christy Nome from South
No,
Carolina.
yeah, or
She
South
looks
South
good
Dakota
too.
rather.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Republican Party has set them up for success for quite a long period of time, just based on their bullpen. But you're right; it doesn't matter who you have running on the Republican side, and until the media changes, which I don't expect it will in our lifetimes. You know, they will never get a fair shake. They'll never get equal treatment. And we saw that, during the town halls where Biden was basically, he had a babysitter there throwing little lobbing little softballs at him, and Trump was essentially in a debate with the moderator.
Right.
And people can say all day long that Trump is a contentious kind of person, but he showed in that last debate that he's not necessarily a contentious person. He is if you confront him, he's not going to just sit there and take it. And some people see that as contentious, but other people see that as just having a backbone.
Right. Well, having backbone, standing up for yourself, having some sort of confidence in what you believe in, and when you're a Republican and you come to office trying to reach across the aisle and trying to work with each other, you're not going to win. You want somebody, like I said before, America loves a leader. They love a winner.
Yep.
Regardless of what you think of Trump, he wins everything.
Yeah.
He wins. And
He's
just to have an
really
update, I don't know what your map looks at, but Missouri has now gone for Trump, and it's
nice.
10 electoral votes. So according to my map, it's Biden 131, Trump 110. And just looking at the map, I haven't really seen anything to change. It seems Texas, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, and Wisconsin are now leaning red, with Iowa and
Yep.
Minnesota still leaning blue. Maine is still kind of out there. Arizona just opened their polls, and um, Trump's down by 9 at this point.
Mhm.
I truly think Arizona is going to go to Trump.
Yep,
It's looking good.
it is.
I
It
don't
is.
want to say much, but um, I don't see him I don't see Biden flipping anything that he won
No, no,
last time.
I don't see, and that's again the issue with having this early voting and the mail-ins is that you know it is what it is, but you're not going to see Biden come from behind on anything. Literally, his campaign had a philosophy of we're going to build a large lead and we're just going to try to cling on to that through the election.
Right.
And and if it worked for them, it would be brilliant. But it doesn't appear that it's working for them.
No, and here's the thing. What website are you looking at? Show me what percentage of Virginia's in, and
Sure.
also look at Rhode Island, because Rhode Island is still like 53-45 Trump.
Right. Right.
Like, it's been
Okay.
it's 10:30.
Yeah, Rhode Island should have been. Rhode Island's usually one of the early ones that's called.
It is
Uh,
called. It's called, and Virginia's called, but Biden's not winning any of them, and it's not even
right,
close.
but that's what I'm saying. So Rhode Island's only 33% in.
Okay. Okay.
Trump still has a 9 point lead there.
Yes. Okay.
And then Virginia, 56%, and Trump has a 6.5% lead.
Okay. So it's still like, yeah, I don't know why they're taking so long to count votes, but
Yeah, I don't know either. That's kind of odd. Like I said, Rhode Island is usually one of the early states to report.
right.
So I don't know if they just had a lot of mail-in votes, possibly. Mm.
And they
I
still
know.
haven't called. They still haven't called Florida, and it's almost 4 points. It is almost 4 points in Florida. That is incredible.
That is.
Oh,
So so now here's the thing. It's not only yeah, I'm not only happy because the person who I think was the better candidate between the two men running won, but I'm also happy because if these numbers that we're looking at right now hold up, if the states that you just rattled off, if they all go for Trump when it looks like they're going to, it's going to be a landslide in the numbers in the range that I predicted. Uh, the good thing about that is that does not give you, if you're on the left, that doesn't give you any room to really protest anything. Now that doesn't mean that they're still going to protest. There's still going to be violence in the street. There's a reason people were boarding up their businesses.
right.
But
It wasn't
but
because they thought Biden was going to win.
right, but it but it but it's not justified. So it's not going to last a long time. If we saw this, if this was a 283 to 260, I can't do the math in my head, but if it was that kind of range where people couldn't,
Yeah, like a Bush Gore type thing.
right,
Yeah.
we could see, not only would we see violence, but we would see violence stretched out potentially for months as opposed to just a couple of days.
Yeah.
So, this literally Trump winning in a landslide, as agree with it or not, that saves lives. That saves American lives because these people with Antifa and BLM now are starting to show themselves as being violent, as willing to kill people and hurt people, not just destroy property, which by the way also kills people because people commit suicide because they lost their business or that if their house catches fire they can't get out or the police can't get through to help them out.
Right.
People die because of that too. You don't have to shoot somebody in the head for them to die. You just have to prevent them from being able to live their life.
Right. Right. It's a lot of different ways that goes.
Yeah.
Um, but
Biden,
if
Biden's
it's
behind
in
by
this
6 point
time of
North
day,
Carolina.
if this in 2020, it was different in 2000 that it got delayed. It still sucked. It was
Hmm.
horrible.
Hmm.
But there wasn't really anything else going on at the time.
No.
Like if that happened now and it was delayed till like Christmas or even
Hmm.
longer, ugh.
Yeah.
You're
I
looking at
mean,
bad stuff, and you're like,
yeah.
the market's going to tank no matter what's going on. But yeah, you're right. There'll be more rioting, more uncertainty. Probably the market will go even further down because the differences are stark
Yeah.
between the two. But yeah, it's looking good. North Carolina is now up by 54,000. Trump's up by 54,000. I still think some of the
So,
streets counties are not in yet. What's North Carolina percentage in? It's what in the 90s,
one,
ain't
it, 91%, no,
it?
93%.
93%. And from what I've heard, they still don't have like Johnston County. There's some strong counties that are still not counted yet.
Right.
So
They're not, those aren't going to be the counties that are like, oh, we found 70,000 votes for Biden. you know, so, uh, there's a reason I love the farmland in North Carolina. They're just common sense folks.
yeah, I mean it's just like anywhere you go, and you get to the rural areas, and that's why they live in the rural areas because they just want to be. They don't want to be around the city.
Yeah.
They want to be left alone. But yeah,
I,
so
I guess they
nothing's
finally
really
called.
changed. It's still kind of they still won't call a swing state. They still won't, according to my map, they won't call it because I think they know once they do it, it's gonna. I think they're not gonna do it till the next polls close, which will be 11. So I think that'll be California and all that stuff. And you know immediately that's gonna go. California, Oregon, Washington, and
Mhm.
without any votes out, they're gonna call it, just like they
No,
have
yeah,
on.
California is going to be one of those 0% in, call it for Biden state.
Yeah, which it will go for Biden, but whew, I think there's going to be a little bit of change out in the West. I have a feeling. Now, I don't think it's going to flip,
No.
but I think there's going to be some gains out there. And people talk about like California moving to Nevada and Arizona and Texas and all that stuff, Colorado, which is true.
Hmm.
Um, but doesn't that also remove some of the liberals from California
Yeah.
too, and make
Yeah.
it more possible for it to change? I don't know. I mean, I don't know,
Uh,
but I
well,
think they'll call those pretty quick, and then once that happens, they might start having to call these swing states because
they,
they want the polls to clear. They don't want their election result, which is already what 10:45.
well,
So
so if you're running a news station right now, if you're running CNN or whoever right now, you're trying to play a balancing act. You are looking at the poll results, and yeah, you don't want to call the states too early because first off, it hurts your side to do that. There are potentially still people voting out in California right now, but the other thing it does is as we've talked about before, you want to keep eyeballs glued to the screen. That being said, and North Carolina is full 1 point percentage. So yeah,
right,
I can see that flipping.
yeah, it's 1 point now.
And and Pennsylvania is Trump's up by 11 in Pennsylvania right now.
That's some what. So what? Let me real quick.
Mhm.
According to my map, New Hampshire's gone. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe so. I
God, that's
believe so.
disappointing. That is so disappointing that New Hampshire went that quick.
New
Oh,
Hampshire used to be one of the most, I don't want to say most conservative, but one of the most freedom loving states out there, and they
well,
just.
Trump lost it by only 3,000 votes, and
Mhm.
the fact that it's like 30,000, that's disappointing. Like
Yeah.
New Hampshire, you disappointed me. Really have.
Uh, Yeah, New Hampshire. I love New Hampshire. I really, it's one of the very few states that I would willingly move to in the past. And I just,
I really
yeah,
thought that would be one of the flippers, but it looks
yeah.
like Minnesota and Nevada will be the next two possibilities that will flip. But Minnesota's not looking good right now.
Mhm.
But what's
Um,
how much is it in Minnesota? Can you tell?
no, it's got to come back around. I was looking away whenever Minnesota was up.
All right.
Um, but what I was saying about the news organizations, the balancing act that if you're running these places, that you have to play is you want to be the first one to call those results. Period. And so they have to time it just right. They don't want to, obviously they don't want to get it wrong because they've had that blow up on them before, but they want to be able to say we were the first ones to call the election for Biden or for Trump. Minnesota 60-38. Biden's leading with 61% in right
Yeah.
now. Yeah. But again, that's a lower population state. It doesn't take a whole lot to swing those numbers. So
Right. And you don't know if that's what's coming in yet. I mean, you have no
yeah.
idea.
And that's a state that Trump and Biden both spent time in the last week. So
Yeah.
that tells you that they know, at least they're, even if the candidates don't think about it, their political handlers know that's a state that can be turned one way or the other. So
Yeah. It should make you wonder why Biden was there, to be honest.
yeah.
I
So
mean,
yeah, his whole campaign was just a mystery. I think he gave up on the idea of being president a month ago, at least.
right.
You know, I think he knew that even if he got elected, he wasn't really going to serve. So I think you could just tell the energy just wasn't there with him.
Well, it'd be the first, it'd be history in the making. It'd be the first president ever elected to not know he was actually elected for president.
I'm still convinced that that Jill is going to set up a room down in the basement that looks like the Oval Office and
Yeah,
just
I
tell
mean, yeah, obviously,
everyone.
it's so pathetic. It's like, you know, I voted for the first dimension president. All right,
And I
good
mean,
job.
and
Diversity.
that's sad, but and a lot of people say, "Oh, Biden's such a good." I don't think Biden's a good man. I
No,
really,
no. They
you
tried
know,
to portray that as, common blue collar Joe.
yeah,
He's never
yeah,
been he's never been that in his life. Even
no,
he ran in '88, they ran him out. They ran him out in '88. He was in the lead, and and then all this plagiarism type stuff that caught up to him, and he had to drop out. He personally dropped out 32 years ago in a presidential race, and now here he is, 2020, at age 406, running for president. And did something just go? No. Okay, same map. Okay, I thought it looked different. Um, yeah, it's a mystery. The perfect word is a mystery. The whole
yeah.
Democrat Party is a mystery to me. So
I I think if you try to apply common sense to anything the Democrats do, you're just going to frustrate yourself. And I'm not saying that to say there aren't people that are Democrats that don't have common sense. I know a lot of them that do have common sense, but the party itself, they literally do the opposite of what they say.
no,
They literally say we are for this, this, and this, and then they do both historically and currently. They do the exact opposite.
no,
They say we want to have essentially a colorblind society, which I'm all for, but then their nominee for the presidency says I only want to run with a woman, preferably a woman of color.
right.
So
Yeah, they look at color more than anybody, but they think it's okay because they do it for good reasons. But no, it's not okay. You're still picking someone not based on the character of who they are. You're picking
yeah,
someone based on something they have no control over, which is pigment. It's
yeah.
skin pigment. Like what the hell does that matter?
I I can have I
It's
can
so
have
stupid.
somebody.
It's so dumb. Like if you were an alien coming from space and you saw this shit, you'd be like, I ain't taking over this place. This place is nuts. Are you kidding me?
This is a dumpster fire, man.
Holy
Kids roll up the
smokes.
windows and lock the doors.
Look at Ohio. Look at Ohio is gone. They still haven't called it yet.
Yeah,
It's
it's
53-46. What are they waiting for?
yeah. I don't.
Florida. Oh,
Texas is a full four. Trump's a full 4 points ahead.
it's
He's not
almost.
gonna. That's not gonna catch up. Biden's not gonna catch up in Texas at
Yeah,
being 4 points down. You
it's
know.
almost four in Florida. It's still almost four in Florida. Georgia's waving. It's so nuts. I guess they're waiting till 11 o'clock, which is another 11 minutes. But hey, if you want to take a break, we can do it now. Come back in 20.
Yeah, yeah. That sounds good to me, man.
Okay, we'll do that, and hopefully we'll see some changes here.
Yep, absolutely. I will see you in just a little bit.
All right, man. See ya. Bye.
See ya.